Dr. Ji-Hoo Park sat quietly in his office at the Korean Space Agency. The room was dark except for the soft blue light from his computer screen. It was late at night, and most of his coworkers had gone home. But Ji-Hoo liked working at night when everything was peaceful. He was looking at some unusual data from space. The patterns on his screen showed waves coming from a distant nebula, a big, colorful cloud of gas and stars. These waves were different from anything he had seen before. Ji-Hoo rubbed his tired eyes and reached for his cup of tea. As he studied the wave patterns more closely, something caught his attention. The waves had a special pattern that looked familiar. He had seen something like this before, but not from space. These patterns, he whispered to himself, they looked just like human brain waves during deep sleep and meditation. He quickly opened another program on his computer. His hands moved fast across the keyboard as he put the space waves and human brain wave patterns side by side. His eyes grew wide. The patterns matched almost perfectly. Just then, the door to his office opened. Dr. Yunmei Lee walked in, carrying her own cup of tea. "Ji-Hoo, you're still here?" she asked with a gentle smile. "It's past midnight." "Yunmei, come look at this," Ji-Hoo said, waving her over. "I found something amazing." Yunmei walked over and set her tea down. She leaned close to look at the screen. Her expertise was in human brain studies and meditation research. Ji-Hoo explained what he had found. "These waves are coming from the Heart Nebula, about 7,500 light-years away," he said. "Look how they match with human brain waves during deep meditation." Yunmei's eyes moved between the two patterns. Her mouth opened slightly in surprise. "This is incredible," she said softly. "The match is almost perfect. But how is this possible?" Ji-Hoo shook his head. "I don't know, but think about what this could mean. These waves might have the same calming effect on the human brain as meditation." Yunmei sat down in a chair next to Ji-Hoo. Her mind was racing with possibilities. She had spent years studying how meditation and sound therapy could help people relax and heal. This discovery could change everything. "We need to study this more," she said. "If these space waves really have the same pattern as meditation brainwaves, they might help people reach deep relaxation states more easily." Ji-Hoo nodded. "I can set up more detailed scans of the nebula. We can collect more data about these waves. And I can start designing experiments to test how these waves affect the human brain," Yunmei added. "We'll need to build a special chamber to recreate these frequencies safely." They spent the next few hours making plans. The office remained quiet and dark, but there was a feeling of excitement in the air. Neither of them felt tired anymore. They knew they had found something special. As the first light of dawn began to show through the office window, Ji-Hoo and Yunmei had filled several pages with notes and ideas. They had the beginning of a research plan that could lead to an amazing discovery. "We should go home and get some rest," Yunmei said, looking at the time. "Tomorrow will be a busy day." Ji-Hoo smiled and nodded. As they packed up their things, he took one last look at the wave patterns on his screen. Somewhere out there, far away in space, something was making these peaceful waves. He had a feeling this was just the beginning of a much bigger story. They didn't know it yet, but their late-night discovery would soon lead them on an incredible journey. A journey that would change not only their lives, but the lives of people across Earth. And it all started with some unusual waves from a distant nebula, noticed by a scientist working late at night. 3 months after their late-night discovery, Ji-Hoo and Yunmei stood in front of a large metal chamber. The special room they had designed was finally ready. Its walls were lined with sensors and equipment that could receive and amplify the peaceful waves from space. "Are you ready?" Ji-Hoo asked, checking the control panel one last time. Yunmei nodded and walked into the chamber. She sat down on a comfortable chair in the middle of the room. As a brain researcher, she had volunteered to be the first person to test the effects of the space waves. "Starting the wave reception now," Ji-Hoo said through the speaker. He pressed several buttons, and the chamber began to hum softly. At first, Yunmei felt nothing unusual. Then, slowly, she noticed a gentle warmth spreading through her body. The air around her seemed to vibrate with a sound too quiet to hear. Her mind began to feel clear and peaceful, like during deep meditation. But something else was happening too. As she closed her eyes, Yunmei saw soft colors floating in her mind. They moved and changed like clouds in the wind. Then she heard a voice. It was unlike any voice she had ever heard before, gentle and musical, like wind chimes in a breeze. "Hello, people of Earth," the voice said. "We have been waiting for someone to hear us." Yunmei's eyes snapped open. "Jihu," she called out, trying to keep her voice calm. "Are you hearing this?" "Hearing what?" Jihu's voice came through the speaker. "The instruments show unusual activity, but I don't hear anything strange." "There's a voice," Yunmei explained. "Someone is trying to communicate through the waves." The gentle voice spoke again. "We are the harmonious. We live in the nebula you have been studying. For thousands of years, we have sent our peaceful waves across space, hoping to find others who could hear them." Yunmei listened carefully and repeated everything to Jihu. He quickly wrote down every word, his hands shaking with excitement. The voice continued, "Your species is special. You are the first ones we have found who can naturally connect with our frequencies. We have watched how you use sound and meditation for healing. We would like to share our knowledge with you." A beautiful image appeared in Yunmei's mind. She saw a vast garden made of crystal structures, each one producing different sounds and colors. In this garden, beings made of light moved gracefully between the crystals. "That is our home," the voice explained. "The sound garden, where we study the healing powers of cosmic frequencies." For the next hour, Yunmei talked with the voice, learning about the harmonious and their peaceful civilization. They were ancient beings who had evolved beyond physical bodies, becoming pure energy that vibrated with the frequencies of the universe. When the session ended, Yunmei walked out of the chamber on shaky legs. Jihu rushed to help her to a chair. "It's amazing," she said, her eyes bright with wonder. "They want to teach us, Jihu. They say humans have a natural ability to work with these healing frequencies. They want us to visit their realm." Jehu looked at the pages of notes he had taken. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "We need to tell the agency directors right away." That evening, as they prepared their report, both scientists knew their lives would never be the same. They had not only discovered peaceful waves from space, they had made humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization, a civilization that saw humanity's potential for growth and healing. The harmonious had been reaching out across the stars for millennia. Now, finally, someone had answered their call. It was the beginning of a partnership that would open new paths for human development and understanding of the universe. 1 month after the first contact, the Korean Space Agency's main conference room was filled with important people. Scientists, government officials, and space experts from around the world sat around a large table. They had all come to hear about the communication with the harmonious. Jihu and Yunmei stood at the front of the room, presenting their findings. Behind them, a large screen showed the matching patterns of the space waves and human brain waves. "Through our continued communications, we have learned more about the harmonious," Yunmei explained. "They have chosen a representative named Neri to speak with us. Neri has helped us understand their civilization better." Jehu stepped forward. "The harmonious have extended an invitation to humanity," he said. "They want us to visit their realm within the Heart Nebula. They believe humans have a special ability to work with the cosmic frequencies they use." The room was silent for a moment. Then a senior official spoke up. "How can we be sure this is safe? The nebula is thousands of light years away." Just then, the wave reception equipment in the room began to hum softly. The lights dimmed slightly, and a gentle, musical voice filled the air. Everyone in the room felt a wave of peace wash over them. "Greetings, Earth leaders," Neri's voice said. "I understand your concerns. We have prepared a safe path for your journey through the cosmic frequencies. Your natural ability to resonate with our waves will protect you." The officials looked at each other in amazement. This was the first time anyone besides Unmai had heard the Harmonious speak. The peaceful feeling in the room helped calm their fears. "We have existed for millions of your years," Neri continued. "In all that time, we have never found another species that could naturally connect with our frequencies. This makes humans special. We wish to share our knowledge of healing and harmony with you." A scientist raised her hand. "How would we make such a long journey?" "We will guide you to create a vessel that can travel through the frequency streams," Neri explained. "These streams flow through space like rivers of sound. They can carry you to our realm much faster than normal space travel." Over the next 2 hours, Neri answered questions and explained more about the Harmonious civilization. The peaceful waves continued to fill the room, helping everyone think clearly and remain calm. At the end of the meeting, the officials agreed to accept the invitation. They would begin preparing for humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Sound Garden. As people left the conference room, Jihu and Yunmi stayed behind to talk with Neri. "Thank you for helping us explain everything," Yunmi said. "Your species has great potential," Neri replied. "We see in humans the same love for harmony and healing that we have. Together, we can create something wonderful." "How should we prepare for the journey?" Jihu asked. "Focus on understanding the frequencies," Neri advised. "Learn to feel them not just with your instruments, but with your hearts and minds. This will be important for the journey ahead." As Neri's presence faded, Jihu and Yunmi looked at each other with excitement. They would lead the mission to the Sound Garden, opening a new chapter in human history. It would be a journey not just through space, but into new ways of understanding the universe and themselves. The peaceful waves from the nebula continued to flow through the room, a constant reminder of the amazing adventure that lay ahead. The spaceship Peaceful Dawn floated in Earth's orbit, its silver hull gleaming in the sunlight. After 6 months of preparation, the vessel was ready for its historic journey. Chief Engineer Ta-Won Kim had designed it specifically to travel through the cosmic frequency streams. Inside the ship's main control room, Ta-Won adjusted the final settings on the wave protection system. He had created special shields that would keep the crew safe while allowing them to benefit from the peaceful frequencies during their journey. "All systems are ready," Ta-Won reported to Jihu and Yunmei, who stood nearby. "The frequency receivers are working perfectly." The crew of 20 people had been carefully chosen for this mission. Each one had shown a strong natural ability to connect with the harmonious waves. They had spent months training their minds to work with the frequencies. "Neri," Jihu called out softly, "we are ready to begin our journey." The familiar, peaceful feeling filled the ship as Neri's presence joined them. "The frequency streams are aligned for your travel," the gentle voice said. "Follow the path I show you." A beautiful stream of colors appeared in space before them. It looked like a river made of light and sound, flowing among the stars. Ta-Won carefully guided the ship toward the stream. "Remember," Neri advised, "the journey through the frequency streams will be different from normal space travel. Let your minds relax and flow with the waves." As the Peaceful Dawn entered the stream, everyone on board felt a gentle vibration. The walls of the ship hummed softly, and the air filled with peaceful energy. Through the windows, they could see waves of color flowing past them like the northern lights. "This is amazing," Yunmei said quietly. She watched as patterns of light danced across the control panels. "The ship is responding to the frequencies perfectly." Ta-Won smiled as he checked the instruments. His design was working even better than he had hoped. The ship wasn't just traveling through the frequency stream, it was becoming part of it. As they journeyed deeper into space, Neri taught them more about the streams. These rivers of frequency flowed throughout the galaxy, connecting different regions of space. The Harmonious had been using them for millions of years. Hours passed like minutes as they traveled. The crew took turns resting in special meditation chambers Ta-Won had built. These rooms amplified the peaceful effects of the frequency streams, helping everyone stay calm and focused. "We are approaching the outer edges of the Heart Nebula," Neri announced after what felt like both a moment and an eternity. Through the windows, they could see the vast cloud of colored gases that made up the nebula. The sight was breathtaking. The nebula glowed with soft purples, blues, and pinks. Waves of light and sound moved through it like gentle ocean currents. It was more beautiful than any photograph from Earth's telescopes had shown. "Welcome to our home," Neri said warmly. "The sound garden lies at the heart of this nebula. Here, the frequencies are at their strongest and purest." As they prepared to enter the nebula, Jihu looked around at his fellow crew members. Everyone's faces showed the same peaceful wonder he felt. They had traveled farther than any humans before them, not through ordinary space, but through streams of harmony and healing. The peaceful dawn glided forward, carrying its crew toward their extraordinary destination. They were about to become the first humans to enter the legendary sound garden of the Harmonious. The peaceful dawn entered the Heart Nebula, moving slowly through clouds of glowing gases. As they traveled deeper, shapes began to appear in the distance. At first, they looked like towers of crystal rising through the colored mist. But as they got closer, the crew realized they were seeing something far more wonderful. "These are the outer gardens," Neri explained. "Each crystal structure creates its own frequency pattern. Together, they form a symphony of healing energies." Young researcher He-Jin Cho stood at one of the observation windows, his eyes wide with wonder. From the moment they had entered the nebula, he had felt a special connection to the frequencies around them. Now, looking at the crystal formations, he could almost see the patterns of sound they made. "The frequencies," He-Jin said softly. "They're not just making sounds. They're creating shapes and colors in space itself." Neri's presence brightened slightly. "You are very perceptive, He-Jin. Few visitors understand so quickly how our garden works. The frequencies shape the very fabric of space around us." The ship moved between towering crystal structures that rose higher than Earth's tallest mountains. Each crystal had its own color and sang with its own voice. Some produced deep, peaceful tones that made everyone feel calm and strong. Others created high, clear notes that helped clear the mind and sharpen thoughts. Li worked with her instruments, recording everything they saw. "Each crystal seems to affect a different part of human consciousness," she observed. "It's like a perfectly designed therapy system." "That is correct," Neri said. "Over millions of years, we have learned how different frequencies can heal and strengthen the mind. Each garden section serves a specific purpose." The peaceful dawn arrived at a large crystal platform that floated in space. Following Neri's guidance, they docked their ship and prepared to leave it for the first time. Taiwan had designed special suits that would protect them while letting them fully experience the garden's frequencies. As the crew stepped onto the crystal platform, they saw their first Harmonious in physical form. Neri appeared as a gentle shape of light and color, floating before them like a beautiful aurora. "Welcome to the Sound Garden," Neri said, the words now coming directly to their minds. "Here, you can experience the full power of the frequencies." He-Jin walked to the edge of the platform and placed his hand on one of the crystals. As he touched it, the crystal began to glow brighter, and its frequency changed slightly. "Remarkable," Neri said. "The crystal is responding to your touch. This is very unusual for first-time visitors." Jihu and Yunmai exchanged excited looks. They had hoped that humans would be able to work with the frequencies, but this was beyond their expectations. The crystals were actively reacting to human presence. The crew spent hours exploring the outer gardens, learning how each crystal worked. The Harmonious had created different sections for different purposes, some for healing, others for learning, and some simply for the joy of creating beautiful harmonies. As they walked among the crystals, everyone felt more peaceful and aware than they ever had before. The garden's frequencies worked together perfectly, creating an environment of complete harmony. It was like being inside a living symphony that could touch your very soul. "This is only the beginning," Neri told them. There is so much more to show you, and so much you can help us understand about new ways to use these frequencies. After several days of exploring the outer gardens, Neri called the Earth team to a special chamber deep within the crystal structures. The room was filled with shimmering lights that moved like waves on a calm sea. The Harmonious had something important to share with them. "We have shown you the beauty of our garden," Neri began, the gentle voice carrying a note of concern. "Now we must tell you why we have been searching for others who can work with our frequencies." The chamber darkened slightly, and an image appeared in the air before them. It showed a massive red star near the Heart Nebula. The star was swollen and angry-looking, very different from Earth's peaceful sun. "This star is dying," Neri explained. "As it grows larger and hotter, it sends out harmful radiation. This radiation interferes with our frequency patterns. Our garden is slowly losing its harmony." Hejin stepped forward, touching one of the nearby crystals. He could feel that its frequencies were slightly off balance, like an instrument that needed tuning. "The patterns are changing," he said. "They're becoming unstable." "Yes," Neri confirmed. "We have tried for centuries to protect our garden, but the radiation grows stronger each year. Soon, this place of peace and healing will be lost forever." Imle looked at the dying star with worried eyes. "How long do you have?" she asked. "Perhaps 50 of your Earth years," Neri replied. "We have been searching the galaxy for a species that could help us preserve our knowledge and possibly save our garden. When we found that humans could naturally work with our frequencies, we felt great hope." Jaihu thought carefully about what they were hearing. "Are you asking us to help you move the sound garden?" "That is one possibility," Neri said. "But moving such ancient and complex frequency patterns would be very difficult. We need fresh ideas, new ways of thinking about the frequencies. We have noticed that humans see patterns differently than we do." Taiwan had been quietly studying the crystal structures around them. As an engineer, he was already thinking about possible solutions. "The frequencies are like music," he said. "When an orchestra plays, each instrument has its own part, but they all work together. Maybe we need to find a way to keep all the patterns working together even when they're moved." Neri's form brightened with interest. "This is exactly the kind of new thinking we hoped for. Your understanding of music and harmony might help us find a way to save our garden." The team from Earth spent the next few hours learning more about the problem. The Harmonious showed them detailed maps of how the radiation was affecting different parts of the garden. They explained how the frequency patterns were connected and why they were so difficult to move. As Hejin walked among the crystals, listening to their changing frequencies, he began to understand something important. "The garden isn't just a collection of separate frequencies," he said. "It's one big pattern, like a giant symphony. We need to understand the whole song before we can help move it." The Harmonious agreed with Hejin's insight. They had created this garden over millions of years, carefully building one frequency pattern upon another. Now they needed help to preserve their work before it was too late. As the meeting ended, both Humans and Harmonious felt a mix of worry and hope. The challenge ahead was huge, but working together, they might find a way to save this amazing place of peace and healing. Dr. Park and Hejin worked together in a quiet chamber of the sound garden. After several days of studying the frequency patterns, they had discovered something interesting. The crystals could store frequency patterns like computer memory stores data. This gave them an idea for saving the garden. "If we can copy the frequency patterns into smaller crystals," Dr. Park explained to Neri, "we might be able to move them somewhere safe." He held up a small crystal that Hejin had tuned to match one of the garden's frequencies. Imai had been working on her own discovery. She found that traditional Korean healing songs could help stabilize the weakening frequency patterns. When she played recordings of these ancient songs near troubled crystals, their frequencies became stronger and clearer. "Music from Earth helps the garden," she told the others. "It's as if our songs can remind the frequencies how to stay in harmony." Taiwan joined their efforts, using his engineering skills to build special devices. These machines could help transfer the frequency patterns from the large garden crystals into smaller ones. He worked carefully, making sure the pattern stayed pure and strong during the transfer. Each crystal is like a musical note, He-Jin said as he helped Tai-Wan test the devices. We need to keep all the notes perfect to save the whole song. The Harmonious watched with growing hope as the humans worked. They saw how each person brought different skills to help solve the problem. Dr. Park used science to understand the patterns. He-Jin could feel the frequencies naturally. Yeon-mi knew how to strengthen them with music. Tai-Wan could build the tools they needed. One day, they were ready to try their solution. They chose a small section of the garden for their first test. He-Jin placed his hands on the main crystal while Yeon-mi played a traditional healing song. Tai-Wan's machine hummed softly as it helped move the frequency pattern. Slowly, the pattern began to flow from the large crystal into a smaller one that Dr. Park held. The small crystal started to glow with the same beautiful light as the garden crystal. When they checked the pattern, it was perfect, an exact copy of the original frequency. It worked, Neri said, joy clear in their musical voice. You have found a way to preserve our frequencies. The team spent the next few weeks teaching the Harmonious how to use their method. They showed them how to combine Earth's music with the frequency transfers to keep the patterns strong and pure. The Harmonious learned quickly, their own knowledge of frequencies helping them understand the new techniques. They also discovered that the small crystals could be used to start new gardens in safer parts of space. The frequency patterns could grow and spread in their new homes, just like plants growing from seeds. You have given us more than just a way to save our garden, Neri told them. You have shown us how to help it grow and change. We did not know this was possible. Dr. Park smiled as he watched He-Jin work with a group of Harmonious, teaching them how to feel the frequencies the way he did. Together, humans and Harmonious were creating something new, a way to preserve ancient wisdom while helping it evolve and grow stronger. 1 year after their first arrival at the Heart Nebula, the team from Earth stood in the center of the sound garden. Around them, the crystal structures glowed with renewed strength. Their work had succeeded beyond what anyone had hoped for. The garden was not only saved but transformed. Small crystals containing copies of the original frequency patterns had been sent to safe locations throughout the galaxy. New gardens were already beginning to grow, each one unique but connected to the others through the harmony of their frequencies. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter, Neri announced to the gathered group of humans and Harmonious. What started as a mission to preserve our garden has become something far greater. Dr. Park and He-Jin had discovered that the new gardens could communicate with each other through the frequency streams. The patterns they created together formed a network of healing energy that spread across space. It was like a symphony playing on a galactic scale. Yeon-mi's work with traditional Earth music had led to an amazing discovery. When human songs were combined with the Harmonious frequencies, they created new patterns that were stronger and more beneficial than either one alone. The garden now sang with both ancient wisdom and new harmonies. The frequencies have changed, He-Jin said, touching one of the crystals. They're not just surviving now, they're growing stronger. The radiation from the dying star can't harm them anymore. Tai-Wan's engineering team had built permanent transfer stations throughout the garden. These stations helped maintain the frequency patterns and could create new seed crystals whenever they were needed. The Harmonious had learned to use these tools, adding their own improvements to the design. Other species are beginning to visit the new gardens, Neri told them. Though they cannot work with the frequencies as humans do, they can still benefit from their healing effects. You have helped us share our gift with more of the galaxy than ever before. The Korean Space Agency had established a permanent research station near the original garden. Scientists and students from Earth came to study the frequencies and learn from the Harmonious. Each person who visited returned home with a deeper understanding of peace and harmony. Dr. Park looked at his team with pride. 1 year ago, they had come here hoping to help save something beautiful. Now they had helped create something even more wonderful, a way for different species to work together and share their knowledge. The garden will continue to grow and change, Neri said. Each new person who comes here adds something to its harmony. This is what we hoped for when we first reached out across space, not just to preserve our wisdom, but to help it evolve and grow. As if to demonstrate this, a new crystal began to form nearby. Its frequencies combined Earth music with harmonious patterns in a way that had never been heard before. The sound it made was beautiful, peaceful, and energizing at the same time. The dying star still burned in the distance, but it was no longer a threat. The garden had grown strong enough to protect itself, and its wisdom was now safely spread across the galaxy. Future generations would always have access to this place of peace and healing. As the Earth team prepared to return home, they knew their work here would continue. The Sound Garden had become more than just a project or a mission. It was a bridge between species, a place where science and harmony worked together to create something greater than either could achieve alone. The frequencies of peace and healing would continue to flow through space, touching more lives and growing in new ways. And it had all started with some unusual waves from a distant nebula, noticed by a scientist working late at night.